Hey guys, it's Roderick, and we're here again for another review of The Handmaid's Tale, Season 5, Episode 8, Motherland. This was a very interesting, intriguing, and also frustrating episode. Um, so let's just get right into it. First, one of the things for the technical aspects, here's another term I want to introduce to you, and that is the term or the concept called exposition. This episode was very heavy in exposition. Exposition is really when one character relays another piece of information to the character as a means of updating the reader or the audience as to their thoughts, intentions, or future plans. Typically, they say you should kind of disguise exposition. And one of the things that this episode does is kind of wrap the exposition that is given, or the information that is given in this episode, in the moves and machinations of Commander Lawrence. So he really serves as a tool, a dual tool of really being the B kind of or C storyline, and also of delivering needful or useful information to us, the viewer, about what he's thinking, what his intents are, and what his future plans are. So that's another term for you to always look at. Think about it that exposition is really the opposite of subtext, right? So whereas instead of saying exactly what you're thinking, exactly what you're planning, and exactly what you're hoping for, subtext buries that and allows the actor to really convey that information via action as opposed to words, right? So let's get into it. No teaser, straight into Act 1. June is cooking, and immediately she's daydreaming about making pancakes with Hannah. So it was very much like we've seen in other episodes that June is constantly thinking about her time with Hannah. And Rita Mora was there. Again, no business. Like, really, do like June and Luke have like a Canadian EBT or something? Because like they're always at their house like eating up their food. So I mean, not like I'm saying like anything bad about that, but I mean, last time we saw Rita, eating with her sad little sushi plate. So they must be like, girl, come on over. We'll cook for you. So you're going to eat like sad sushi by your house anymore or whatever. I'm just saying they always just eating up Luke and June's food, but whatever. It takes a village. Anywho, and we hear this honking now outside, and it's protesters. So at first I'm thinking, oh, these are people who are protesting June for her part in Serena's captivity, but we'll get to see later what the protesters really are. So they're honking and they're protesting, and Luke was like, hi, Luke is really gloating in his like Mighty Mouse moment, right? He's like, I don't know why Serena thought you were friends. I don't know why you're all so sad about her. And June's like, well, it wasn't really about Serena. It's about the fact that I didn't think her baby should die in the woods. And Luke is like, whatever, bitch. She's getting exactly what she deserves. So they go outside, and we see the protesters are not actually protesting June per se, but there are Canadians who are protesting Americans in Canada. And I just got a hoot out of that because, so much we see in America are Americans protesting the illegal, undocumented immigrants or immigrants per se. And the fact that Americans now could be refugees in other countries where other people are saying go back home, I thought was a hoot. Because you never think that these people you never think of Canadians as being that type. So I'm just gonna call them salty waffles because they're salty maple syrup. So I'm just gonna start referring to them as salty waffles now, because the salty waffles were just all like, you need to go back where you were. Canada is for Canadians. And I just was like, oh wow. I guess it's been the 7 years, really Canada? But Canada's like, we don't owe you shit. We were doing fine all by ourselves. We got our own maple syrup, our Niagara Falls, and yeah, y'all can go back to fuck where you came from. Anyway, the whole neighborhood is just really up in a war. So then we get another shot, this kind of beautiful seaside shot, and it's Commander Lawrence taking a walk with the other commanders in the development that is now known as New Bethlehem. And it's this kind of isolated island somewhere that's in Gilead. One of the things I'm going to do for this episode, I'm going to drop down descriptions and I'm going to show you the map of how much Gilead has taken over in the United States and what exactly is free. Because I think that's very important when we get later on in the episode about the geopolitical movements that are going on. Because you kind of have to, because the question is like, well, who's free, who's not, where the war zones are. So I'm going to put that in the description so that you can look and actually see where exactly Gilead has taken over, what are the hostile zones, what are the places in contention, and you'll get a hoot after you see what state Gilead has not taken over, which I thought of all the states in the United States, I figured they would have been the first one to sign up, but you'll get to see what state has been a major stronghold and not giving out to or giving into Gilead. Anyway, so he's walked with the new commanders and he's, really kind of slow pitching this like this is going to be a new thing. And we get to see the first part of his during Commander Lawrence's exposition about his plans for Gilead is that he really wants the craving for legitimacy of Gilead. So in order for that to happen, you can't have people constantly escaping, running to Good Morning America, which of course no one has, talking about all the horrible things going on in Gilead, right? So he wants to create a place that's outside of Gilead proper for people to be reconnected with their families and they can live and they can be happy. And also the byproduct of that is that it vitiates or undercuts the citizenry of the United States and really drains some of the population and therefore the hope that the United States could ever have a resurgence, right? So that is part of this. His first step, this is the first step we see in his plan. And the commander's like, oh, okay. And, but then there's one holdout who's kind of has that, direct on, that Commander Putnam kind of energy. And then they quickly remind him, well, Commander Putnam was on the wrong path and we saw what happened to him. So quickly we see old boy change his course and hop on board. It was like, okay, I'm not on charge. Please forgive me. And Commander Lawrence is like, I forgive you. So now we see Commander Lawrence is fully in charge. He is no longer the hidden architect. He's no longer the wizard behind the curtain, pulling the levers. He is out front. He is out the closet. He is proud, and he is doing whatever he wants to do in Gilead as the new HNIC. So this is what we get. So now we get to Serena. Child, Serena is in the corner, crying and pumping. Pumping and crying. Crying and pumping and crying. And I'm actually getting a giggle. Like, I know last week, the Holy Ghost sat on me and I was kind of feeling bad. But now this episode, I was like, haha, you get everything you deserve and then some. So she's crying and pumping. And here comes Miss Wheeler coming in just like hot fish. Like, she's salty. She got to be there. And she's like, I heard you demanded I come and collect the milk, and just, shoves the empty bottles, and Serena gives it to her. She asks how the baby's doing, and she's like, child, your baby crying all the time. We're trying to do the cryo method, and he's not taking it. And Serena's like, he's a month old. You don't have to do a cryo method, and which is a good timestamp between how long it's been since the barn and the baby, right? We get another timestamp. It's been a month between the two episodes. And Serena's like, you need to pick him up. And Miss Wheeler's like, you need to worry about yourself. You need to get yourself together. And all this picking your baby up and calling them type of ish, it just shows how kind of weak and kind of moral fortitude you don't have. So Serena has to stand up in her good prison panties and remind her, bitch, I done fucking topple the whole country. I done had baby in a barn. Don't you worry about how fucking tough I am. You make sure you fucking take care of my baby, okay? And Miss Wheeler's like, we'll see, but you're just not really fit to be taking care of mother. So give me my milk. You go back to playing your prison Parcheesi, and I'll come back and see you later. And Serena is just not happy about it at all. So Luke and Maura are on the sidewalks, and they're scrubbing the sidewalks and whatever. And Luke is like, oh my God, y'all are so much better than this than I am. That's like my Luke voice, right? Just kind of like, blah, blah, blah. So Luke is like, you're so much better than it than I am. And they're like, oh, we're used to it because we used to have to scrub the blood off the wall in Gilead. He was just trying to be cute and funny, and here goes Juna Mora once again, like taking it all the way back. But what we do see is this is another example of how a person can leave a circumstance and that circumstance is still in the person, right? Because what we see is regardless of whatever stride June makes episode to episode, she still has not left Gilead. Gilead is still within her, right? Because she's just gonna be like, oh yeah, whatever. But girl, we didn't really need all of that. So mind you, the salty waffles are driving while they're trying to scrub the like spray paint and stuff off the thing, telling them to go back home and whatever. And Luke is like, I'm kind of tired of this shit. Like, can we just do it? Should we leave Canada? Right? Right as she says that, here comes Commander Lawrence calling, right? So once again, we get another, so, if you say June is the A storyline and Serena's like the B storyline, Commander Lawrence is a C storyline, we've seen the intersections. Now, this episode's a really great episode because all the storylines intersect with each other at one point or another. So our C and our A are intersecting when Commander Lawrence calls June. And this is where Commander Lawrence pretty much spills the whole tea and confirms what a lot of us thought. So New Bethlehem, so basically Commander Lawrence is like, look, I was trying to solve a birthing crisis and save humanity, and also rid the United States of this capitalism consumeristic cycle, right? In order to do that, I use these crazy religious zealots, Serena and Fred, to effectuate that goal. What I did not know or underestimated was how depraved that they are. So New Bethlehem is a course correct or attempt to fix what Gilead has become, right? So in Commander Lawrence's eyes, he wants to transform all of Gilead or a lot of Gilead into the New Bethlehem model and kind of eliminating the same. Now, whether that includes having handmaids or not, he wasn't too specific on that, but he was like, oh, I want to do these reforms, and really pitches to June how she can move to New Bethlehem and her grown child. I'm like, grown? The child is like 12. Like, she got to wait like 6 years or whatever, but her child could be there with her family. And he's like, well, what do you mean, like, with her family? And so June is like, what? And she's like, well, how am I going to be safe? Like, how am I going to be okay? He's like, oh, don't worry. I'll send Nick. I've been grooming him non-sexually. I thought that was funny. I've been grooming Nick. And he can be there to watch over you. So he's really giving, June that you can have the best of both worlds. You can have your husband, you can have your baby daddy, both your kids be happy, all in this Gilead island, and you all will be safe. So June is like, what? Hannah? Okay. So June goes home to tell Luke, and Luke, I was for the most part pretty happy with Luke this episode, right? But we'll get to some of his falling down points. But this moment, I was happy with Luke. He was like, no, we are not going back to Gilead. Why do you think these people are trustworthy? He's like, but he did this. He helped with Mayday. He helped with Nicole. He did this. He's my friend. He's like, he's a Nazi. He's not your friend. And then what it very much shows is that in this episode, you see this is a multi-level problem, as we've already seen, right? There are geopolitical forces that are working, with the toppling of a nation, trying to fight off the incursion of the insurrection. And we just have June trying to get her child. And what nobody has said to June this entire season, or really in 5 seasons, is what happens if you don't get your child back, right? What does your life look like? How are you still going to be a good mother to your child, to your other child, if you don't get your first child back? But June's like, but she said Hannah, but he said Hannah. And Luke is like, no. Luke is like, how do we get her out? And Luke is like, what the fuck was wrong with you? Serena did all this fucked up shit to you, and you out here playing midwife to her in her fucking barn, and then Lawrence is a Nazi, right? But you fucking believe him. So then he's like, the fuck out of here. Like, that's just not an option. So then he's like, so then June goes, well, that's better than what you did because you haven't done anything. And he was like, And then once again, we see this, like, they're constantly trying to simp Luke. They're constantly trying to simp Luke. And Luke is like, let me try to protect you. And then June's like, I don't need you to protect me. Hannah does, right? So again, we're not going to go back to the glue I made about Luke. I think this is better than what we see this characterization do. Again, what man is going to keep having his wife constantly, wanting to go back, like quasi-Stockholm syndrome, to go back to this horrible country just to get their child back? It's not like the child is down the street and they're being held like deep into the ocean with Michelle Pfeiffer. It's not like this is a whole ass country where, and June is a magnet of getting caught, right? Like her second job, whatever it is, her number 2 job is getting fucking caught. She can't even walk down the street. I literally thought at the end of the episode they were gonna snatch her up in a van, because that's how many times June gets caught. So why do you think that this is gonna be something really different? I do not understand. But I was very proud of Luke just being like, no, this isn't an option. You know, and I'm like, where is your therapist? Like we saw earlier in this season, like, why have you not dragged her to any type of therapy? But I guess if you're a refugee with salty waffles, the salty waffles like, you ain't getting no therapy care here. You lucky if you get the few little apples and EBT cards you have the friend to feed all your American refugee friends. I don't know. And is Luke working? Like, what's he doing? Like, is he working? Like, whatever. But we'll get, whatever. So Lawrence is making his rounds. So now we get to Lawrence and Serena. And Serena is salty. She's like, so you'll get me out of here? He's like, yeah. She's like, good, it took you long. I was like, you ungrateful bitch. Like, literally, he could have just not visited you. But once again, we see this is Lawrence moving chess pieces around for the ultimate goal, right? So, New Bethlehem, check. We got June on her way, check. So he thinks. Now we got to get Serena and her salty, bitter, hateful ass somewhere safe and out of his hands so that she ain't running on. Because if there's one person who can derail New Bethlehem and everything in Gilead, it's Serena. So he's like, yeah, but you got to go back to the Wheelers. She was like, the fuck you say? She's like, yeah. He's like, they've decided to take you back in. And he's like, you got to think of the optics here. Like, you got to be with a family when you have your baby loving. Like, you got to promote these Gilead ideals, Madam Ambassador, right? And she's like, I don't give a fuck. I ain't no motherfucking handmaid. So we get a very much, again, the foil between Serena and June, because whereas, all June's doing is crying and throwing fits about how she's trying to get back to, her child, Serena's about to be like, fuck that baby, right? Like, you literally can see it going across her face, like, I ain't no motherfucking handmaid. Like, I came up with this, not for me ever to be a part of this, right? So we really can see the flash of June about to be like, fuck that baby, right? Like, because I'm not to be no handmaid. But he's like, well, apples and oranges, bitch. You got to figure out what you want to do, or you can stay here and pump and cry, right? So anyway, now we get to June, and she's trying to calm the cold down, and she's crying, and there are people are honking because the protesters are fucked up the baby's sleep. And, June starts to sing this song that she used to sing to Hannah. The song is I'll Be Your Mirror, and this version was by Clem Snide. I looked that up. Thank you, Shazam. And we see Luke in the background, and he's tearing up because, June is just really upset, and she's like, I really want you to meet your big sister. You really would like her. And as emotionally impactful as I think the scene was designed to make, I think I'm just kind of numb to June crying about Hannah. Like, maybe I'm just, again, God's still working on me, right? But I'm just kind of tired of June just crying about this child that, as you will see, like, that is just so irrationally, like, her way of rationalizing what has happened is not correct. And again, like, how you have not formed one pragmatic plan to get your child back since you've been on this entire show, right? Everything has been some hook by crook, 6 toes down type of plan. So Luke is crying and he's moving in the background. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll be your mirror, whatever. So June wakes up the next morning and we hear the world's worst spy is at the house. I guess he ain't got shit else to do. But today he does. Because just like Lawrence is making his rounds, Tuello is making his rounds, trying to convince the people Lawrence is meeting with for them to try to stay. So June's like, why should we believe you? You haven't done anything. He's like, we got a plan. Why don't you just work and let us work this plan? Well, none of this matters unless I have my daughter. And you get to see again the kind of myopicness of the myopia of June, in the reality of the situation, right? There are 100 Junes in this, there are hundreds of women who have been separated from their children. And of course, the story really only zones in or follows June, but June really acts like her situation is so novel and so unique, but it's only novel and unique to her, right? But then it's like, well, they try to put her in a support group. She took over the support group and co-opted that into like a, a bloodthirsty mob. So really, June just really needs to be sedated and just set in a corner somewhere with a strong talking to. But whatever. So Tuello's like, just give us up, and Tuello, reveals that they're planning a military strike, which they've been planning for some time, which clearly makes sense. If they've taken over the entire United States, you're going to have to take it back somehow, June. So why don't you wait until we get rid of all these crazies out of Gilead, and then you can get your daughter back, right? Absolutely not. June is basically like, pretty much like, you need to make me a better offer than what Lawrence is giving me, or I'm about to call New Bethlehem my motherfucking home, right? So, and he pretty much is like, don't you think you owe the United States of America something? Like, really? How could be ungrateful? She's like, fuck America, fuck that, I just want my child, right? So then June says something that I thought was very interesting. She's like, we got captured trying to help you. And the fact is, no, you didn't. You got captured because your husband got simped by Serena, and then can let you go, let you two go into no man's land to try to get information that you had no idea what it was, no idea what the value was, and you got captured on your own. Tuello didn't ask you to do that, right? I mean, as shitty of a spy is, even he knew he wasn't going to do that. So what made you think that you were going to do that? So the way June kind of rationalized their previous captivity as if they were doing Tuello a favor, he never asked them to do that at all. So I was like, girl, okay, whatever. So now June is sitting outside talking to Rita. I guess Jimmy Cricket Mora is off, working on some another Mayday badge or whatever. So Jimmy Cricket is out. So we get Jimmy Cricket Jr. Mora or Rita, and it's like, what would you do? And Rita's like, nah, it's none of my black ass business, quite frankly, right? Like, I don't want to get involved. Like, you work that out or whatever. She's like, no, tell me, what would you do? She's like, well, I mean, I'm here. I ain't ever going to go back, right? So don't worry about signing me up for any of this. But, if I had an opportunity to see my son and he was still alive, there's nothing I would do. There's nothing I would, wouldn't do to get to see him again. All the confirmation that June needs, confirmation bias that June needs for her to keep thinking that this new Bethlehem plan is going to work out in her favor, that it's really a good idea, okay? But you know what? It gives Sarita something to do besides eating up June and Luke's food, so whatever. She gets to see for that. Now, here we get to the, probably one of my best scenes of this entire episode. So June is, so what I did mention is at the beginning of the episode, when they were all in the kitchen, Luke's phone was blowing up, right? So the reason Luke brought up Serena was because all their phones have been blown up because Serena has been calling from the detention center, trying to get them to visit, trying to get them to come. And he's like, I don't know why the fuck she keep calling me or thinking we're going to help her. So finally, I guess June is like, bitch, I'm tired of you blowing up my phone. I need to fucking keep this line open for Hannah. Let me just come down and see you, right? And so June, so then what June is also trying to get from, so in this scene, we have two competing needs, right? Or two competing interests and objectives, right? June wants to get information from Serena that what Lawrence is promising is capable, right? Or really realistic. And Serena is trying to get June to get her out of jail, right? So we kind of get to see the setup with the two competing needs. And Serena's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really involved in Gilead politics, girl. I'm a woman. You know how it is. Like, I don't know. Which is pretty much how motherfuckers do when they pretend to be stunting to be in charge. And then when you really need them for something, they're like, oh, I don't know. I can't, a whole bunch of him and a han or whatever, right? So that's all Serena's doing. So then Serena gets to her big ass, like, I need a lawyer. I need like a citizen advocate, someone who can, claim me or stake for me. And Jim's like, what? Bitch, we ain't friends, right? She's like, we're not friends. Serena's like, but you forgave me. But, I know, when we're in the barn, we're on the same page. She was like, no. Like I said last week, the Holy Ghost just descended on me and I just turned the other cheek. Ha, I guess I'm just a better Christian than you ever would be. And Serena was like, ooh. And I was like, that's how it works sometimes. Like, sometimes the Holy Spirit just jumps on you. And when you really want to give let a person have it, you just be like, because that's all June did last episode anyway, while she was delivering that baby, was take deep breaths because she's about to choke Serena out anyway. So Serena's like, but I forgave you. She's like, no, I didn't forgive you, not at all. And Serena is really taken back by that. And so Serena's like, well, what am I supposed to do now? And she's like, how am I supposed to go and live with a woman who's trying to take my baby? I paused the television and went, ha! I know my neighbors were like, what the fuck is he doing? Because I just guffawed so loud that Serena could, in her prison uniform delusion realness, could ask the person who she has had captive, raped, abused, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I was like, really? Like, and she was like, so then June was like, are you really asking me this question? And she was like, so June's like, girl, and she just gets up and she's like, how do you do this? And she's like, let me tell you what you do. You go back in and you pretend to be a handmaid and then you plot your revenge. And Serena's dense ass is like, well, girl, does that work? Where the fuck is Fred? Where the fuck are you? So now Serena's like, oh shit, okay. She's putting a 1 and 1 together, right? And she was just like, you better go. And she's like, well, I don't know. What would you do in my situation? I mean, at this point, I just walked away. But we needed this pivotal moment for June, right? And June turns and says, you can't help your child if you're not with them, right? So that as the words come out of June's mouth, June realizes that this is the course of action he needs to take. Now, of course, we know that this is ridiculous, right? Because her and Serena's situations are a little bit different, but they're also very similar because they're both kind of, even though Serena would be with her child, it's not like she can escape to go anywhere. And Hannah's over in another country, no telling where she is. So she kind of tells her, you can't help your child if you're not there, which is not true, right? So the truth is that June can help Hannah in Toronto if she had come up with a better plan than the plans that she have, right? But because of the way the show is, the only plan has always been for June to go in and try to get Hannah, as opposed to using some other type of intellectual, pragmatic approach to getting her child back, which seems to be lost on everybody except for Luke here and there of trying to get your child back. But whatever, if that's what they want to believe, fine, whatever. So June goes to see Commander Lawrence. So now we have, again, our storylines are all intersecting and crossing. And she's like, I'll do it if you could stop Hannah from getting married. And then we get one of the second best lines, or the third best lines is, well, I don't know, because, Gilead's going to Gilead, right? And she's like, you're bullshit. All the women you had abused and raped and tortured. He's like, I know, but there's a larger and greater good I was going for, right? So unfortunately, eggs, omelets, which is pretty what he says, but he kind of feels bad, and Bradley Whitford does a really good job in this scene of really conveying the remorse of the byproduct of the country that he kind of founded or whatever. So Lawrence, so now she's like, I'll see what I can do. So now he pitches to Nick as, this is a quasi do-over. So now all the pieces are in place. Serena, check. June, check-ish, right? So now we need to get Nick in place because that's what he promised June, that Nick will be there to look after her. So he's walking through the development and talking about how, New Bethlehem is going to be this quasi do-over. And wouldn't it be nice if you came down here too, Nick, and brought Rose and your new baby, and June will be here. And I guess Rose is going to be okay with this, right? Because whatever. And Nick was kind of like, oh, that's an interesting proposal. And I was like, Lord, Nick, don't you start coming up with no ideas, okay? If there's, you ain't no Commander Lawrence, okay? And we don't even know how long he got on this show either, because motherfuckers coming up with new ideas in Gilead don't really last that long. So, Nick, we don't need you coming up with no new ideas. You need to just shine your shoes at Bojangle to whomever is playing the violin close to you, okay? Because that seems to be your best trait. So anyway, we get back and June is having a complete meltdown with Luke, right? And she's like, I have to go there. And Luke is like, we're never going to be enough for you. And, and they have this whole kind of fight. And, she tries to kind of simp him out, being like, you didn't do anything for 7 years and all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, she's like, well, you and Nicole will be, he's like, we're not, you're not taking Nicole to Gilead, right? She's like, well, fine, I'll just go and you and Nicole will be fine. I was like, how is this making sense, June? Like, how do you really think that you're gonna go back to Gilead for your child who's 12? And I'm, again, like, as a cis gay man, I don't have children, right? So I go, again, I recognize the whole mother-daughter connection, mother-child connection is what's supposed to be tugging at our heartstrings, but I'm just kind of fucking tired of listening about June cry about a child that she has not come up with plans, come up with a really good plan to get, right? Like, that's what makes this episode so frustrating, because all June does is cry and daydream and yearn for a child that more than likely when she sees her is not going to recognize / want her, right? So nobody has been really trying to do any kind of cognitive behavioral therapy with June about what your life would do. Like, what do you really think is going to happen, June? Like, do you think you're going to see Hannah? She's going to see you. You're going to run through the lilacs and you're going to hug and you're going to have like some color purple moment? Like, is that what you really think is going to be happening, right? But yes, she does, right? Because, but that's how people are in life, right? So I won't be so harsh, because many people will forfeit their future for what they had in the past, right? And I'm not saying that she's attempting to forfeit them, but June is unable to really have any type of future in Toronto as long as, Hannah is still in Gilead. And that's quite unfortunate, right? Like, that is also the fault, because June can't ever come up with a good enough plan to get her daughter back, right? Because this isn't like, again, like you left your child at Chuck E. Cheese. She's in a whole ass, insurrectionist country that's toppled the most powerful country in the United States. You need to have a plan. And June just has not come up with a better plan. So anyway, they bring the video to Tuello. Now, so let's get back to the video. So as she's having to have the meltdown, she's like, what are you going to do? And so then Commander Lawrence, so there's a video that gets delivered to June and Luke's house, right? So a video's delivered, and it's a video of Hannah. And she's just like, oh my God, it's Hannah. So I was about to be like, bravo, Tuello. Not necessarily the world's shittiest spy, right? But okay, we got something. Child, it didn't even come from Tuello, okay? This is Commander Lawrence kind of dangling, the kind of carrot in front of June. So it didn't even come from Tuello. So they see the video, and they're all excited. And so they give the video to Tuello, right? And he was like, okay, whatever. So Serena goes back to the Wheelers, okay? So she comes in, so now, Serena, there's no teal in Serena's life, okay? She's like one shade away from the Handmaid crimson, but so now she's in some cornmeal yellow, dowdy house dress. And she's standing with her hands behind her back, and she's like, she walks in, and he's like, you may speak. And Serena was like, oh, and you could just see, she was just like, Lord, give me strength. Lord, give me strength. So anyway, she goes and she apologizes. She's like, it was all my fault. I'm so sorry. You've been so great. And Mrs. Wheeler just is trying to well, now you see that you're not really fit to be a mother. And you can see they do a close up of Serena kind of pinching and grabbing her hands in the background, because she was about to go all the way off. But girl, you ain't got no power. You are literally powerless. So you got to start coming up with a plan, which I think is going to be a very interesting development, because we've just seen for 5 seasons Serena being needlessly vindictive, vengeful, hateful, and destructive. Now she can use all that hatefulness on the Wheelers, right? Because if there's anybody who could come up with a plan to get herself out of this and in the run of the whole house, it is Serena. So let you do that with you and baby Noah. So then she goes upstairs and she hears the baby crying, and then she runs up to the baby, starts to breastfeed the baby, bask in the sunlight, and we're like, okay, girl, but you got to go back to your room at some point, because she's like a quasi. This situation is not going to turn out well, because she got maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, a month before old man Wheeler's was trying to creep up on her again, right? So I don't know how long she thinks her and her baby Noah are going to be whatever. Oh, and Mrs. Wheeler told her when she showed up, you can breastfeed your child, but all the other motherhood things I'm gonna do. So again, the Wheelers are not gonna be long for this life because Serena's gonna come with a plan and probably low-key poison them because the little Marthas seem to be nice to her, right? So if she was smart, she would get all the Marthas on her side, poison the Wheelers, bury them in the backyard, and live in the house with, you know, baby Noah, and just be like, they went out of town, I don't know where they went, and those new petunias just started growing yesterday, right? Like, if she was smart, that's what she would do, right? But we'll see. Hopefully, you know, whatever. So, Act 5, which is, as you know, was a very short act, everyone's all jumpy because they're waiting for Tuello to call them back with some information or whatever. Because pretty much the ultimatum is either you come up with a way to get our daughter or we're going to New Bethlehem, right? So everyone's jumpy, and then Jiminy Cricket Mora, who has been doing nothing this episode but eating up folks' food and being useless, she's like, what's wrong? Nothing, we'll go get some apples. You know, Nicole needs some apples. So she gets to the Apple store, not the Apple store, the store with the apples, and the phone rings, and it's Tuello. They found Hannah. You know, they're going to get her out, and they're going to do a strike and raid, and they're going to bring her back. So now everybody is like, yay, yay. June like topples the apples, and she's running back home, and she's there, and she tells Luke, and she tells Mora, and they're all hugging, and they're like, yay, we're gonna get Hannah back. And then we get this scene of Hannah in her purple, you know, planting lilac in this lilac field, you know, and then she looks up at the clouds, and we hear the fighter jets in the background, right? Episode ends. So this is what I call a piece setting episode, right? So all the pieces are in place, right? So we have Lawrence and his plans, Serena and her plan, June and her lack of plan, and we're now got 2 more episodes left in this season to really see what's going to happen. Because the truth of the matter is, if something happens to Commander Lawrence, this New Bethlehem idea is gone, right? Because Gilead is just really always careens towards chaos anyway. So the only thing that's kind of keeping them on this balance is Commander Lawrence. So the question is like, how long is Commander Lawrence going to last? What is he going to do to, you know, to get June? Because he realized that getting June back to New Bethlehem is important because it'll draw all the other people back and it crushes the resistance. So June is a very important piece in this New Bethlehem idea, as is Serena, because you got to keep her fucking mouth shut and her from fucking causing any problems, right? So that's why she got to stay at the Wheelers as a quasi-handmaid, because she can't be stomping around causing problems, because that is all about the optics. So again, we go back to, as we discussed in the previous episodes, between the Gilead that is true and then the Gilead that they want to project. And now they really have given life to this kind of false Gilead by calling it New Bethlehem and not really shining light on the real New Bethlehem. We had no Aunt Lydia, not complaining because, child, no Janine, no Esther. So, you know, we'll probably catch up with them next episode. So anyway, like I said, it was a very good, very interesting, informative, and slightly frustrating episode. But with 2 more episodes left, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. Child, if we can just get June to like 1 good therapy session, that will be okay. If we can, if we can get Luke to just have 1 whole episode where he just curses June the fuck out and just let her know what it is, that will be good. More of them can bring some groceries over. That'll be good. But anyway, thanks guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. So someone jumped in the comments and said that maybe Luke's parents, they said they showed up earlier in the previous episode, the previous seasons, and that Luke's parents were actually black. Well, if that's the case, then I stand 10 toes down to what I said back at episode 2 and 3. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.